and welcome to My Career in Data, a podcast where we discuss with industry leaders and experts how they have built their careers. I'm your host, Shannon Kemp, and today we're talking to Stacy Bein from Discover.
With a robust catalog of courses offered on demand and industry-leading live online sessions throughout the year, the DATAVERSITY Training Center is your launchpad for career success. Browse the complete catalog at training.dataversity.net and use code DVTalks for 20% off your purchase.
Hello and welcome. My name is Shannon Kemp and I'm the Chief Digital Officer at DATAVERSITY, and this is My Career in Data, a DATAVERSITY Talks podcast dedicated to learning from those who have careers in data management, to understand how they got there and to talk with people who help make those careers a little bit easier. To keep up to date in the latest in data management education, go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Today, we are joined by Stacy Bein, the Principal Business Data Steward at Discover. And normally, this is where a podcast host would read a short bio of the guest. But in this podcast, your bio is what we're here to talk about. Stacy, hello and welcome.
Hi, thanks so much, Shannon, for having me. This is great.
Oh, thank you so much for taking the time to be here today. I really appreciate it and excited to hear your story. So let's dive in.
All right.
Okay, so you're the Principal Business Data Steward at Discover.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me, what type of business, in case anybody doesn't know, what type of business is Discover?
Yeah, so Discover is a financial services company, and we offer credit cards, personal loans, cashback checking accounts. And I don't know if you heard, but recently in May, Discover merged with Capital One Financial. So we're going through some merger, training and understanding, and I'm really learning a lot about Capital One Finance and their culture. So come January 1st, hopefully I'll be at that point Capital One Financial Associate. They don't call them employees.
Wow. Oh, very interesting. I had not heard that. Fascinating. I love it. It's so fascinating too. I'm familiar with the credit card service, of course, and it's always a good reminder that they offer additional services beyond that. Right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like the online checking. And for example, Capital One is the only bank that offers, or finance company that offers, no overdraft fees on their checking accounts.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, I know.
People.
Yes, exactly. Yes, I was switching over to, that end of the month right before your payment check comes in.
Oh, I love it. So tell me, as the Principal Business Data Steward, what is it you do?
So as a Principal Business Data Steward, I lead an enterprise-wide data governance initiatives with a focus on marketing tag compliance. So I specialize in the implementation and managing of a tool called ObservePoint, which is a web governance platform, and that automates audits and ensures accurate tag deployment on our digital properties. So think of our websites, ensuring that the tags that are there are ones that are approved through compliance and meet our, policies and standards for how we're implementing them. And this does include the designing and operation of our approved consent categories, which are first party, second party, and third party tags, which can be on your website, and also cookies that they align with, again, the internal policies and standards. And with that, I'm driving this collaboration between our marketing, privacy, compliance, legal, and our analytics teams to really streamline tag ownership, not data ownership, tag ownership and oversight. And with that, I'm creating a lot of job aids, having a lot of communication plans, doing a lot of research around ObservePoint and what it can provide for us, providing training materials. And then I just support as a consultant if they have any questions for what the data within ObservePoint is telling us.
Oh, fascinating. Okay, so you've talked about it a little bit already. So, but, can you go a bit more into how you work with data in your job?
Yeah, so I'm leading the ObservePoint audits, and this is to monitor our tag behavior. So we validate the consent categories and detect where we have unauthorized data collections going on. So anytime you go to a website, there's tags that are on the websites, and it does collect data about you. not that PII or personal identifiable information, but it does collect information. And so I need to understand what type of data that is being collected and ensure that our customers are, our customers' privacy isn't being shared with tag vendors that it shouldn't be shared with, et cetera. And then I'm also collaborating with the teams to define and really enforce the data attributes, the definitions. Oftentimes we'll see, different terms come through or data elements come through and we don't understand what we're actually defining there. So it's really defining that out with our tags to see what they are collecting.
Oh, very interesting. I love that. So Stacy, tell me, so let's back it up a little bit. Let's talk about how you got into data. So when you were young, say 6 years old, was this the dream? Did you say, I'm going to grow up and be a principal business data steward?
No, that's a big no. So
what was the dream?
I actually wanted to go into be a dental hygienist. So so I had to take some biology classes at community college before I got into a dental hygienist school. And I just couldn't get into biology. I just, I'm like, ugh, I don't like it. So I was like, okay, this isn't for me. So at that point, I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do. So I took my undergrad or higher education break and started to work full time as a business collection manager. And with that, I was really drawn to solving, complex multi-team problems that I saw. And then I was able to teach myself about how to analyze data to provide answers to these problems. And with that, that was going back in the day when I had ODBC connector to Microsoft Access. And with Microsoft Access, if you're familiar with it, you can do, click boxes together and then do right click, left click to figure out how you want to align things or connect things. And so with that, I guess a data nerd, because I would do that and then I would flip it to the code and read the code. So that way I could understand the code and what it was telling me and then try to write things that way and then flip it back and forth. So I learned a lot there that it intrigued me and interested me. So with that, I did decide to go back to school, worked full time, got married. I had 4 kids while taking my classes. And, this was prior to online classes that were available now. So had to go to the class every night. But I did get my undergrad in accounting. And then I went ahead and continued my education to earn an MBA. And that's when they started to really focus in on data analytics and business intelligence. So I wanted to learn more about that. And I learned a lot about coding and Z and all of those things with my MBA.
Oh, fascinating. I love that. And you're not the first person, and certainly I did the same thing. You go to college for one thing and then like, oh yeah, no, that's not what
you're like, that's not for me. That's not going to work. I remember we were supposed to put on like these bib overalls and like go in a pond and collect samples and then put it under the microscope to look at it. And I'm like, I don't want to go in that pond and collect samples. That's not what I want to do. So.
Oh, I love it. Well, and what a change. But you did find your passion. Mm-hmm. So tell me, you're, and yes, oh yes, I remember the Access days. So you're in this job where you're working with Microsoft Access, and where do you go from there?
So with that one, I was in the current role of collections and I wanted to do more with data per se. So I started to work as a senior compliance analyst and I really enjoyed the work and the team I worked with, it was great. And at some point, the company decided that they were going to make a change and close the Chicago office. So while I was in the interim between positions, I actually did sub-teach for a little bit and worked as an aide within the schools. And that didn't last long. I'm like, I don't know if I can handle working with kids this long, but it was fun. It was a great opportunity for me to work with kids, So with that, I was able to finish my MBA and I was looking for a new position and I was approached by a recruiter through LinkedIn about a senior data quality analyst in data governance. And at that point, I've never heard of data governance before. So I did, research and I took the position because data governance seemed to be that, the middle person. You're not so much doing all the code work and developing like DBA software, et cetera, but you're not on the business side of things where you're responsible for sales and that business operations. It was like that liaison between the business and IT. And I'm like, this is perfect because I can still talk code. I can still read it and understand it, but then I can translate it to the business partners so they understand what I'm saying. And so, yeah, I went through a couple of different roles. I was a senior data quality analyst for a while. I took on a data governance manager role for a bit, and then I took on an assistant data governance director role for a bit. I really had a hard time finding a company that supports the curiosity that I have. I think I ask a lot of questions. I try to break holes in things and see how we can fix it. I try to change status quo. And, some companies are just that, and change management isn't one thing that they embrace too much. But, I build my network with within data governance, and I see where companies succeed and where companies don't succeed. And so I'm always looking for an opportunity where a company really embraces the same aspects of data governance that I see, like it can't be just IT, it has to be company culture. We can't have no collaboration, no silos, and no blockers.
Oh, yeah, I hear you there. And I talk about it a lot in these podcasts, just about how one of the biggest commonalities amongst data people is that curiosity.
Yeah.
That need to constantly learn, check things out, understand how it works. Also, communication is such a strong skill, like you say, that's needed. I was recently looking up, what are the top skills needed for a chief data officer? And the number one skill was communication.
Yes, definitely. And you have to learn to communicate with both IT partners and your business partners, because there are times that they just don't see eye to eye on certain things, and you really have to ensure that you're communicating, and always throw in the what's in it for me. They always want to know what's in it for me. Why do I care? Why do I need to pay attention to this? So it's important to understand their problems and what's in it for me.
Yeah, very good point. So, okay, so you're getting into data governance, data quality. You're really getting into your groove as a data practitioner, but you're looking for a place to give you flexibility in your creativity. So how do you continue on? Where do you go?
Yeah, so when I took the position with Discover, I was very excited because it was different from other data governance roles that I've interviewed for, or, were not accepted, but provided a position with, and I, declined the offer, because it seems that I've done data governance stuff that, like, I've defined data, I've, pulled metadata, tried to drive it with businesses to step up, get data stewards, find the data owners, et cetera. So with Discover, it's something different because it's different kind of data that I'm learning about. So if we think of like data domains, I'm specializing within one data domain, which is marketing data. So it's more of I'm on the ground in the data, digging into those holes. And that seems to be where I like to be, more so than like, say, like at that enterprise level, writing policies and standards. And so I do like to ask the questions, I like to poke the holes and then dig for the answers. They say, like, don't get into the weeds, but I love getting in the weeds. That's how I figure things out. I have to get into the weeds to understand the bigger picture so I can be more successful with who I am. And I don't necessarily like chaos, but it's really generally like I want to work with things. I want to make things better, to understand the people on what the problems are, and I want to make something to help fix the problems. A lot of times you hear about the data quality issues, and it's, everyone just talks about it and nobody does anything about it. And it's like, well, we have to figure out what the root problem is. But yeah, so, I mean, regardless of how curious I am, I've been through working with toxic teams. I've had poor managers. A broken culture I've also seen coworkers talk behind your back, thinking you're competing with them. And I just don't work well in that type of atmosphere. So, been there, smiled through it, looked for the next opportunity. And, turns out like walking away from the wrong thing is just as powerful as walking towards the right one. Growth isn't always about climbing the ladder like some people see. Like sometimes it's about choosing the right building for yourself to be happy and to feel successful.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's such an important thing to know and practice.
Yeah. Yeah. Because oftentimes I see that individuals think they're stuck. And it's like, well, you're really not stuck. We can go somewhere. You have to have that ambition to get
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, and that's one of the best things about getting in and becoming a data practitioner, right? Is every industry has data that they need to manage. You can go anywhere and do anything and learn and expand your own horizons in any industry.
Yes, yes, yes. As long as you have that general concept that like DATAVERSITY provides with the training and the certificates, you can definitely go anywhere with that, and have that communication also is key.
Visit dataversity.net and expand your knowledge with thousands of articles and blogs written by industry experts, plus free live and on-demand webinars covering the complete data management spectrum. While you're there, subscribe to the weekly newsletter so you'll never miss a beat.
Yeah, indeed. So tell me then, what has been your biggest lesson so far in your career?
So I would say, biggest lesson would be that you have to stay curious. I have to be the one who's always curious, always looking. One of my managers said one time that I'm too much like a squirrel. I dig too many holes to look for the nuts. And I'm like, well, that's how I understand things. So it might take me a little longer to see like the outcome, because I am really trying to understand from A, B, C, D to get to F. I can't go from G to A to C. So it's like I really need to understand that process flow in order for me to really understand what the problem is, so I can get it fixed or corrected or help individuals out. So I say the biggest lesson is that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to be curious. It's okay to be who I am. It's okay for me to be outspoken, a little scatterbrained at times, but I always say there's no dumb question. And I'll ask a question and be told, oh, that's a dumb question. It's like, there are no dumb questions. Someone else is thinking the same thing I'm thinking in this room. So it's, always asking the question, and don't feel like you're asking a dumb question, because there are no dumb questions.
I agree. I've made, and again, I really wish I had learned that lesson so much earlier in my career.
Yes.
I was so afraid to ask questions. I was so afraid to speak up, and because I didn't want to look dumb, I felt like I needed to know it all.
Yes.
And like did not give myself a break for not knowing it all.
Exactly. Yes. And you don't need to know it all. I think as long as you surround yourself with the right people and you have the right team of experts, you don't need to know everything, because you have your folks that you collaborate with, and they help you look smart and you help them look smart. So it's always turning to whomever you're working with, your colleague, to look for help.
Yeah, I agree. I held back my own learning experiences because I didn't ask questions. I didn't learn things because I didn't ask questions. I tried to fake it.
Yeah, exactly. You're right. And then you're probably like me, and you spent hours at the end of the day reading books or trying to find the actual answer. This was before AI. Now we can go to AI and it gives us all the answers we need. But before AI, you're at the library trying to figure things out.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh my God, it's so much easier when you ask questions. Easier. So tell me, having been in data for gosh, your whole career, really. What is your definition of data?
Yeah. So, I mean, standard definition data is information that we pull together. Um, it's information that we pull together. And I like to look at it as a puzzle. So all the puzzle pieces are data. And in order for us to really understand what we have, the puzzle needs to come together correctly. And at the end of, after you put all the data together and you look at this puzzle, you see what the puzzle is telling you, a picture, whatever's on that puzzle. If you have a piece wrong, then the puzzle is going to be showing you something completely different that you didn't want to see. If you're missing a piece, the puzzle is not going to show you what you want to see. So I see data as being like each of those puzzle pieces that come through, and it's our data management then is our opportunity to define each of those and then also to pull it together to tell that story.
Very, very nice. And tell me, do you see the importance of data management and the number of jobs working with data increasing or decreasing over the next 10 years, and why?
Oh my gosh, it's going to increase. I see just with the use of AI increasing, and the data needs to be clear and it needs to be clean. AI is only as smart as the data that it's trained on. So without strong data management, we risk feeding AI systems biased information data, inaccurate data, incomplete or non-compliant data. One of the slogans or sayings that I've always used is garbage in, garbage out. Data management, it brings like structure, oversight, accountability, and AI really needs to be accurate, compliant, and responsible with the way that we are looking to start using it more and more. And I believe it's, extremely important for us organizations to really seek the resources in data management to create the AI that creates the reliable information that we want. Without that, our AI is going to give us bad information.
Yeah, absolutely. Indeed. And I wish, it's so funny, we see a lot of companies who are trying to stand up AI and then when it spits out something very erroneous, they're like, wait, what happened? Why?
Yeah.
What went wrong? Oh, I need to manage my data. Yes.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Yeah. You have to take the time to manage it, define it, understand the lineage of it. There's so much to data management that, some executives or leaders just think the analyst goes in and just pulls this data together and it's marvelous. No, we have to really understand where it came from, how it got there. And then two, it's like you have analysts that are like, think of a data scientist that's making these workarounds to make sure the data looks clean in the dashboard. What if we don't have those data scientists and AI just pulls that data, straight from the source, and we have this horrible dashboard that's not true because we have duplicates and data quality issues all over it. So it's really important to make sure we still have those folks in place to manage the data to make sure that it is producing what we want it to produce.
Yep. Oh, so then tell me, Stacy, what advice would you give to people looking to get into a career in data management in any aspect as a data practitioner?
Yeah, I would say, one of the important things is that you just don't manage data. Like, we're not just babysitting spreadsheets. You really need to understand the why behind it. It's about making sure the right people have the right data at the right time so that they can make smart decisions. If you don't know what the data means or why it matters to the business, you're just moving numbers around. We need to make sure that we're curious in data management and able to put those puzzle pieces together. In data management too, you get a little bit of everything. I think like what we were talking about earlier, you have to have that communication, capabilities with you. You're going to get people who love data and they want to collect everything, but it's like, we don't know what to do with it. We have all this data. I don't know what to do with it. I don't know what it's going to tell me. And then we have people who just ignore it and don't understand it and don't want to get involved, and don't understand the importance. Like if you have, say, a data entry individual who's putting in the wrong address every time, that's going to create, simple, but it'll create a data quality problem. And then you have people who are just interpreting data wrong. I'm defining it this way, but you're defining it that way. How do we define it the same and make sure that when we are looking at it for reporting and data-driven decisions, we're defining it the same way? So you really have to work with all different kinds of characters of people. And you have to be ready to influence without really having that authoritative like HR leadership with a lot of individuals, because you would be responsible for, data governance would be, I'm going to find a data steward. I'm going to tell them to do something, but I'm not their leader to tell them to do it. And they have other work they need to do too. You have to ask the hard questions. And sometimes you just need to listen, there was times that I was just interviewing folks and just getting feedback from them. Like, what are your problems? What are your, think of like marketing, like an empathy of the customer. They're my internal customer. What are their problems? Just let them vent, talk about the broken system, and then you can take that back and think how data management can help with that. There was a time I could say in my career when a data scientist was creating a dashboard and had some workarounds, and the business was complaining about the actual dashboard wasn't showing the data they wanted to see. And so I suggested, well, just give them the raw data. Let them see the raw data. Like, you need to fix the problem because you're the one who's collecting that data and it's wrong coming into the system, but you expect us to fix it, curate it, and then send it back to you right. So we're doing the best we can with what we have. And then also I'd say really document a lot. I know that we're moving so fast. We're trying to put out all these different fires. And one of the big things that we in data governance say is define your data, make sure you're writing it down, understand your lineage, but then we're not taking that into consideration in our own world. So it's like document things, but if someone approves something, write it down, make sure that we have it documented that so-and-so approved it. Document the metadata. If you're just using an Excel, use an Excel, just take the time to document it out so you don't have to constantly go back in your head to remember things. I guess I would be like job security to just retain everything in your head and not write anything down. But, things happen and you forget things, I guess, over time. And good documentation is like your best friend. I think when systems fail or people leave or, when you're coming in and having to do an audit.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We went through an exercise at DATAVERSITY to really make sure, everybody understood what our customers go through and that kind of the irony of what we do, right, is managing our own data. But yes. We went through in a company meeting to define customer.
I love it. How long did it take?
Wow. And we're a small company, but we have, several different lines of business.
Yeah.
So, there are multiple definitions.
Yes. Yes.
But it was good, and it really helped, not only to help, with our data and understanding the metadata, but it helped us to understand each other and how each other's speaking and what's important to each line of business, each customer in each line of business.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Really and then you have different, and then you have different levels of customers and that falls into it too. And it's like, you think of the taxonomy and you try to explain the triangle of taxonomy. It's like, okay, we have customer and you might have 4 different types of customers, but they still roll up into customers. So we're going to define them this way, but you can have your little, taxonomy diagram to say different aspects of the customer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's trying to get those individuals to agree on something. Another funny story, just with definitions. My cousin works for a company and they're trying to align all the countries to say a stethoscope is how they define a medical device, because it seems it's all defined differently. And I was like, that's data governance. We're trying to figure out what the definition is of things. And it was just weird because she works for a medical device company. She doesn't call herself data governance, but they're trying to define medical devices across countries. I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, culture definitely comes into play when you're trying to define things. Absolutely. Oh, I love it. Oh, Stacey, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, you too. Thank you so much for spending the time to talk with me and get to know me a little bit more. And I got to know you a little bit more.
Indeed. And so, and tell me, for now, before the complete merger, if people wanted to find out more about Discover, where would they go?
Yeah, so they can go to discover.com, and discover.com's a digital platform that I actually audit to make sure that data is not being collected that shouldn't be collected. So from the discover.com, there's different sub pages that you can go to learn more. Or Capital One Finance has their website too. So you can go there and learn more about Discover. We're integrating the two websites. So it's going to be Capital One with the Discover.
Nice, nice. And we'll get those links up on the podcast. And thank you again, Stacy, so much for taking the time to chat today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. This was great.
Indeed. And to all of our listeners out there, if you'd like to keep up to date in the latest in podcasts and in the latest in data management education, you may go to dataversity.net/subscribe. Until next time, stay curious, everyone. Thank you for listening to DATAVERSITY Talks, a podcast brought to you by DATAVERSITY. Subscribe to our newsletter for podcast updates and information about our free educational webinars at dataversity.net/subscribe.